The first bill on the calendar for the day is House File 1. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number one on the calendar for the day, an act relating to public safety.
I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Ramsey, Representative Mariani, to explain the bill. Or we can go to your first amendment. Members, we're holding for just a minute to locate the author of the bill to present the DE1 amendment. Apparently, we're having technical difficulties. The chair is trying to join the call. He's on. Representative Mariani.
Madam Speaker, it's a pleasure to finally join everyone. It took me a while. My apologies.
If you would like, we will report the amendment, the A200819, delete all amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Mariani moves to amend House File Number 1 as follows. The amendment is coded A20-0819.
Representative Mariani to the amendment.
Madam Speaker, this amendment reflects the agreement arrived at between the House and the Senate on House File 1, the Minnesota Police Accountability Act. And I don't know whether I should just walk through the amendment at this point. I'll take your guidance.
I think you could hit the bullet pointed list, Representative Mariani.
Madam Speaker and members, I will do that. I had a much more eloquent sharing for everyone, but given the lateness of the hour, I'm going to skip that at this point. Madam Speaker and members, we passed a pretty big bill, and so there was plenty of work for us to chew on with the Senate. What we've come to agreement are in several areas. One is to be able to improve our stress and trauma resources for our emergency service providers. There is also an agreement to have a BCA independent investigatory unit that would investigate officer-involved deaths. There's also a police residency reform that authorizes incentives for residencies by locals for their peace officers. There is a prohibition of the use of chokeholds and other restraint methods that is enforced within our criminal code. There is a mandatory reporting to the BCA for use of force incidents. This follows the parameters of the FBI and their request for that information. So it's good to have that collection of information centralized at the BCA. There are two public members that are added. So these are general public members that are added to the Post Board, which is our state licensing board for peace officers. There's also a expansion on that board of the Complaint Investigation Committee that makes it possible for there to be five members, but includes a general public member. And so for the first time, we're requiring the inclusion of a general public member on that committee, which reviews licensure issues, including disciplinary actions. There's a prohibition and a definition of warrior-style training, no reimbursements to law enforcement officers or to entities, and no credits extended for that type of training. There's the creation of a community relations advisory council inside the Post Board. This is a critically important step that ensures that there is a strong, regular community presence in the Post Board itself, working alongside law enforcement officers in order to provide advice on interventions as well as policy for enhancing community relations through the licensing board. There is a requirement for law enforcement chiefs to submit data to the Post Board to contribute to a centralized database that then is used by that council as well as by the board to inform their decisions in terms of intervening with officers who are likely to violate policies inherent in the licensing structure of the board. Members will remember that the particular officer being charged with the killing of George Floyd was in possession of at least 19 major complaints. And so the idea here, members, is to be able to have a system in place that can identify early and can intervene at whatever level early. There's a requirement from the Post Board to update its model use of force policy to reflect statutory changes. There's authority for the board to ensure compliance by all law enforcement entities in adopting use of force models consistent with the Post Board. There's a crisis intervention and mental illness crisis training enhancements and requirements. The board's directed also to evaluate the effectiveness of those trainings. We've been investing in those training dollars for a number of years with no expectation and no direction on the part of the legislature for an evaluation of the investment of the taxpayers' dollars in those trainings. There are autism training requirements. There is a statutory duty for officers to intercede and to also report excessive use of force in the event that they're involved in an incident where there is a violation of law that could lead to wrongful death of citizens. There is arbitration reform in the bill, which eliminates the incentives that are currently within the systems that make it very difficult for either the complainant or the defendant, so in this case that would be police officer, him or herself, to be able to ensure that the decisions are mediated in a way consistent with the facts of the matter. There is an extension of the sunset for the training dollars, but only for 2 years. And again, based on an evaluation effort of those training dollars, as well as a certification by the Post Board that certain training be done by qualified individuals and entities in regards to de-escalation efforts, policing in issues of mental illness, and then also training in cultural diversity and implicit bias. Then there are several appropriations that match up with the policy directions, Madam Speaker, and there are amendments to some of these as well in the sense. So that's a very quick wrap up of the agreement that we've reached over a course of 8 very long days, but quite frankly, weeks prior to that, following the last special session. Members, Madam Speaker, I stand ready for questions and/or amendments at this point.
There's an amendment to the amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Moeller moves to amend the Mariani amendment to House File number 1 as follows. The amendment to the amendment is coded A16.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Moeller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This amendment has to do with Section 5 of Chair Mariani's amendment, the Independent Use of Force Investigations Unit. Under that provision of the bill, the BCA is tasked with investigating officer-involved deaths, but also investigating all criminal sexual conduct cases involving peace officers. And so what this does is just make sure that the data involving officer-involved death investigations is shared according to Chapter 13, but that we're not inadvertently here sharing information regarding criminal sexual conduct investigations. And for that reason, Madam Chair and members, I hope you'll vote yes on this amendment, to the amendment.
Any questions for Representative Moeller on the amendment to the amendment? Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment to the amendment is adopted. There's another amendment to the amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Kunesh-Podein moves to amend the Mariani amendment to House File number 1. The amendment to the amendment is coded A12.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Kunesh-Podein, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This amendment, A12, allows a 6-month extension to the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Task Force. It is allowing the task force to tie up the loose threads after its preliminary report to the legislature in December. So in June 2021, the task force will share an additional report to the chairs and ranking minority members of the legislative committee and divisions with jurisdiction over public safety, human services, state government on the task force. A report will be submitted to the legislative committees by December 15th of 2020, and then this final report will be submitted by June 30th of 2022. Members, I would appreciate a green vote.
The member from Isanti, Representative Johnson.
Madam Speaker, members, please support this amendment. It's something that needs to be done. When I was a few years ago, we had this in a bill that was unfortunately vetoed by the governor, and we would have had that report already if that had not happened. This is very important. We need to get this done as soon as possible. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There's an amendment to the amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Mariani moves to amend his amendment to House File Number 1. The amendment to the amendment is coded A15.
Representative Mariani, to your amendment to the amendment.
Madam Speaker and members, this provides the funding structure for the new database that's created within this agreement. It adds appropriations that have been requested by the administration as they've identified how to make that data system real, as well as to provide the support for the mental illness crisis training that's called for in this bill, and then finally to support to be able to have staffing support for the Community Relations Advisory Council. I would encourage your support.
The member from Isanti, Representative Johnson.
Madam Speaker, would Representative Mariani yield for a question?
He will yield. Representative Johnson.
Representative Mariani, going through this bill, I'm wondering if you know what the reason was this information or this allocation of funding was not included in the bill during the draft.
Representative Mariani.
Madam Speaker and Representative Johnson, obviously we don't know what some of the costs are going to be unless we get to a point of agreement in terms of the scope, the type of work that needs to be done. We now know what that is, and so we've got a good analysis from the executive branch about what those costs would be.
Representative Johnson.
Madam Speaker, Representative Mariani, unfortunately, I don't have a copy of the amendment in front of me to really look at it and analyze it quick. I'm going to get one here real quickly. On this commission that, or council that's being put together on this bill, there's $23,000 for fiscal 23, and then another $96,000 for the board for allocated costs. And then there's more funds for the training. On the training part of it, is that on top of the $6 million that we're allocating to law enforcement agencies for training already, or is that just going to the post board to put together the training and crisis intervention, which we already have that training programs in place?
Representative Mariani.
Madam Speaker, Representative Johnson, there were major changes to the mental illness crisis training. There was actually very little, if any, disagreement between the Senate and the House. We had pretty identical language in terms of what we wanted to see relative to the mental illness crisis training. The money then identified here is what the Post and the executive board or executive branch is telling us it would cost in order to do those enhancements to mental illness crisis training.
Representative Johnson.
Madam Speaker, Representative Mariani, thank you for a little bit of that explanation. But I'm thinking back to my career in law enforcement back in the mid-'80s. I believe it was 1987. Law enforcement was screaming for mental health training back then. In fact, my department, along with all the departments in the county I worked, got together and talked to the staff at the Cambridge State Hospital. We got them to do the training, to learn from them what techniques work to control some of these people when they're out of control. Because at that time, when they were out of control, who did they call? They called law enforcement. And they still call law enforcement when they're out of control. But I remember going through all the techniques that they talked about, which is crisis intervention. We were doing it back then. When we were going through it, they got through all these different things we can do. We asked them a question, a very simple question. What happens when these techniques don't work? And the instructor, and the psychologists stated, well, when they don't work, we call law enforcement. And then they realized who they were talking to. They were talking to law enforcement who were there to get the training how to deal with these people when they're out of control and when those techniques don't work. Members, law enforcement has been asking for help for this for decades. We've been doing a lot of training in it ever since then. We've been doing some good training. I don't know how many hours of training in de-escalation, dealing with those with mental health issues, dealing with those even with autism. In fact, I know a number of people that have that, a number of children. I know a number of adults that have it, and I've had to deal with in my career in law enforcement. We always like more training. We have the training out there. This is a duplication of funding that we already have. I have some reservations about adding more money to this instead of giving it to the departments so their men and women of law enforcement can get the training they need. So, like I say, I have concerns about this amendment with the funding because I think it's going to the wrong places because we have the programs already set up now that, and I don't see how it's going to cost $145,000 to redo the training we already have.
Any further discussion to the Mariani amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Moran moves to amend the Mariani amendment to House File Number 1 as amended, and the amendment to the amendment is coded A14.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Moran.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. For this amendment, just the legislative intent and the criteria for authorizing use of deadly force. Both sections are effective March 1st, 2020, in response to requests from law enforcement agencies to give them time to train on these changes. We have confirmed support from the Minnesota Police and Peace Officer Association, from the Minnesota Sheriff Association, and from the Minnesota Chief of Police Association. Members, I ask for your support on the A14 amendment.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. The motion.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There's an amendment to the amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Nash moves to amend the Mariani amendment to House File Number 1. The amendment to the amendment is coded A18.
The member from Carver, Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is an amendment that you have seen before. Representative Gomez brought a version of it when I was at a memorial service and was unable to join you there on the floor. But it is essentially this: an opportunity for the state of Minnesota to get answers relative to the civil unrest that happened as a result of the murder of George Floyd. And what we are seeking to get here is an impartial, dispassionate commission that will be constituted by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. They will have subpoena power, and they will be able to find out the chronology of what happened, when it happened, decisions that were made by the various entities that were involved. And I think, members, this is going to give us something that all Minnesotans are looking for, which is the answer to the question of what happened over those nights and who made the decisions and what happened relative to those decisions being made and the lead up to them. You know, when this was on the floor previously, it was, I believe, a unanimous vote. Everybody was in favor of it. I believe this is something that is extremely needed. And Madam Speaker, I would ask for a roll call.
Representative Nash requests a roll call. Are there 15 hands? Members, to get to 15, hold on. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Any further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll on the amendment. I'm sorry, Representative Mariani, it's an amendment to your amendment. Do you have? It's very difficult when there are members in the chamber for you to let me know you would like to speak. Representative Mariani.
Madam Chair, and I was puzzling how to do that, actually. Thank you. Representative Nash, without speaking to the merits of your amendment, I think what concerns me right now is that we have agreement with the Senate on the language that's before us. It took us 8 long days of 12, 14, 16-hour days, not to mention, all the time in between the 2 special sessions on an incredibly important issue that all Minnesotans really want us to act on. I would hate for us to disrupt that, put that in danger by adding something that the other body hasn't seen yet. And as far as I know, hasn't spoken on this issue. And so while I have the same interest and curiosity that you have, I don't think this is the time and the place to do that, certainly not with what's at stake before us at this late hour. And so I would urge you to withdraw your amendment. I think your point is well taken. We're going to continue to have this conversation, no doubt. But if you don't withdraw your amendment, I hope you do. I would encourage members to vote no, not because of the merits, but to make sure that we do not put in jeopardy this hard negotiated agreement between the House and the Senate.
Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Chair Mariani, I will tell you that certain senators have indeed seen this language. Senator Dietzich has seen this language. Senator Benson has seen this language. And both are receptive to what we're trying to get done here. I think, I'm not 100% sure that the amendments that were just added on were agreed to. I don't know that to be a fact. But I think, Madam Speaker, this is an important amendment that I think in the time between now and, let's say, when we come back, we can actually begin standing this up. And we can begin answering questions as to what is it that Minnesotans want the answer to, which is what happened. I was up in northern Minnesota in between sessions, and I was fishing, and a person stopped me when they recognized me from an interview I had done somewhere, and they said, what's happening and what are we going to find out relative to the civil unrest in Minneapolis and St. Paul? And they want to know. This is an important issue. It's an important effort. And I believe that it is going to be seen by the Senate as something that is logical and needed. So I would choose not to withdraw.
Any further discussion? Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Appreciate the conversation on this amendment. We were just kind of delaying here just to get word back from the Senate. They have indicated they will take this amendment. This is something that we have supported in the past. I think it went on the last time here in the House on a voice vote and was basically unanimously supported. So the Senate will take it if we put it on the bill. I'd yield to Representative Winkler to see if that changes their mind on whether they would accept it or not.
Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, Representative Dowd, this provision was already in the Promise Act, which actually provided help to the businesses, nonprofits, and individuals harmed by the civil unrest. And to attach it to this bill and not do anything for those people who were harmed is irresponsible, and I ask for a no vote.
Any further discussion? Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd request a yes vote.
The clerk will take the roll on the amendment to the amendment.
Acom.
Acom, no.
Acom, no. Albright. Albright, aye. Anderson.
Anderson, aye.
Anderson, aye. Backer.
Backer, aye.
Backer, aye. Bonner.
Bonner, no.
Bonner, no. Barr.
Barr, aye.
Barr, aye. Baker.
Baker, aye.
Baker, aye. Becker, Finn. Becker, Finn, no. Bennett.
Bennett, aye.
Bennett, aye. Bernardi.
Bernardi, no.
Bernardi, no. Bierman. Bierman, no. Bow.
Bow, aye.
Bow, aye. Brand.
Brand, no.
Brand, no. Cantrell.
Cantrell, no.
Cantrell, no. Carlson, A.
Carlson, A, no.
Carlson, A, no. Carlson, L.
Carlson, L, no.
Carlson, L.
Carlson, L, no.
Carlson, L, no. Christensen.
Christensen, no.
Christensen, no. Claflin.
Claflin, no.
Claflin, no. Considine.
Considine, no.
Considine, no. Daniels.
Daniels, aye.
Daniels, aye. Doubt. Doubt, aye. Davids. Davids, aye. Daphne.
Daphne, no.
Daphne, no. Dean.
Dean, no.
Dean, no. Damath. Damath, aye. Detmer.
Detmer, aye.
Detmer, aye. Driscowski.
Guskowski, aye.
Driscowski, aye. Eklund.
Eklund, yes.
Eklund, aye. Edelson.
Edelson, no.
Edelson, no. Elkins.
Elkins, no.
Elkins, no. Erickson. Excused. Fabian.
Fabian, aye.
Fabian, aye. Fisher.
Fisher, no.
Fisher, no. Franzen.
Branson, yes.
Franzen, aye. Freiberg.
Freiberg, no.
Freiberg, no. Garofalo. Garofalo, aye. Gomez.
Gomez, no.
Gomez, no. Green.
Green, aye.
Green, aye. Grossel.
Grossel, aye.
Grossel, aye. Grunhagen.
Grunehagen, aye.
Grunhagen, aye. Gunther.
Gunther, aye.
Gunther, aye. Haley.
Haley, aye.
Haley, aye. Halverson. Halverson, no. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hanson.
Hanson, no.
Hanson, no. Hassan.
Hassan, no.
Hassan, no. Hausman.
Hausman, no.
Hausman, no. Heinrich.
Heinrich, aye.
Heinrich, aye. Heinzman.
Heinzman, aye.
Heinzman, aye. Herr.
Her, no.
Herr, no. Hertas. Excused.
Hertas, aye.
Hertas.
Hertas, aye.
Hertas, aye. Hornstein.
Hornstein, no.
Hornstein, no. Howard.
Howard, no.
Howard, no. Hewitt.
Hewitt, no.
Hewitt, no. Johnson. Johnson, aye. Jordan.
Jordan, no.
Jordan, no. Jurgens. Jurgens, aye. Keel.
Keel, aye.
Keel, aye. Cleavorn.
Seaborn, no.
Cleavorn, no. Cagle.
Cagle, no.
Cagle, no. Katiza Watun.
Katiza Watun, no.
Katiza Watun, no. Kosnick.
Cosmic, aye.
Kosnick, aye. Kresha.
Krisha, aye.
Kresha, aye. Kunish Podine.
Kunish Podine, no.
Kunish Podine, no. Lehman.
Lehman, aye.
Lehman, aye. Lee. Lee, no. Lesh.
Lesh, no.
Lesh, no. Liebling.
Liebling, no.
Liebling, no. Lean.
Lane, no.
Lean, no. Lilly.
Lily, no.
Lilly, no. Lippert.
Lippert, no.
Lippert, no. Lislegard.
Listlegard, yes.
Lislegard, aye. Long. Long, no. Lucero.
Lucero, yes.
Lucero, aye. Lewick.
Lewick, aye.
Lewick, aye. Mahoney.
Mahoney, no.
Mahoney, no. Mann.
Man, no.
Mann, no. Mariani.
Mariani, no.
Mariani, no. Marquardt.
Marquardt, aye.
Marquardt, aye. Mason.
Mason, no.
Mason, no. McDonald.
McDonald, aye.
McDonald, aye. Mecklin. Mecklin. Miller.
Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Moeller.
Moeller, no.
Moeller, no. Moran.
Moran, no.
Moran, no. Morrison.
Morrison, no.
Morrison, no. Munson. Munson, aye. Murphy.
Murphy, no.
Murphy, no. Nash.
Nash, aye.
Nash, aye. Nelson M.
Nelson M, no.
Nelson M, no. Nelson N.
Nelson N, aye.
Nelson N, aye. New. New, aye. Nor. Nor, no. Nornis.
Nornis, aye.
Nornis, aye. Novotny.
Gravati, aye.
Novotny, aye. O'Driscoll.
O'Driscoll, aye.
O'Driscoll, aye. Olson. Olson, no. O'Neill.
O'Neill, aye.
O'Neill, aye. Pulowski.
Pulowski, no.
Pulowski, no. Purcell.
Purcell, no.
Purcell, no. Petersburg.
Petersburg, aye.
Petersburg, aye. Pearson.
Pearson, aye.
Pearson, aye. Pinto.
Pinto, no.
Pinto, no. Poppy.
Poppy, no.
Poppy, no. Poston.
Poston, aye.
Poston, aye. Pryor.
Pryor, no.
Pryor, no. Quam.
Quam, aye.
Quam, aye. Richardson.
Richardson, no.
Richardson, no. Robbins. Robbins, aye. Runbeck.
Runback, aye.
Runbeck, aye. Sandell.
Sandell, no.
Sandell, no. Sandsted.
Sandsted, no.
Sandsted, no. Sauk.
Soak, no.
Sauk, no. Schumacher.
Schumacher, aye.
Schumacher, aye. Schultz.
Schultz, no.
Schultz, no. Scott.
Scott, aye.
Scott, aye. Stevenson.
Stevenson, no.
Stevenson, no. Sundin.
Sundin, no.
Sundin, no. Swazinski.
Swazinski, aye.
Swazinski, aye. Tabke.
Tabke, no.
Tabke, no. Tice.
Tice, aye.
Tice, aye. Torkelson.
Torkelson, aye.
Torkelson, aye. Erdahl. Erdahl, aye. Vang.
Vang, no.
Vang, no. Vogel.
Vogel, aye.
Vogel, aye. Wagenius.
Wagenius, no.
Wagenius, no. Wozlowick.
Wozlowick, no.
Wozlowick, no. West.
West, aye.
West, aye. Winkler. Winkler, no. Wolgamott.
Wolgamott, aye.
Wolgamott, aye. Zhang Jie. Zhang Jie.
No. Songjin, no.
Zhang Jie, no. Zhang Ti.
Zhang Ti, no.
Zhang Ti, no. Joachim.
Joachim, no.
Joachim, no. Speaker Hartman. No. Speaker Hartman, no. Mecklin. Macklin.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 61 ayes and 71 nays, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. There's another amendment to the amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Her moves to amend the Mariani Amendment to House File Number 1 as follows. The amendment to the amendment is coded A20-0822.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Herr.
Madam Speaker, this amendment suggests we're adding language to allow the commissioner, when appointing arbitrators, to take into account law enforcement's experience. And so we just wanted to make sure that we were accommodating, working with our partners and stakeholders who will be impacted by this. And so it just puts the amendment just clarifies language for us of what the commissioner will be looking at.
Any discussion to the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no.
Aye.
The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There are no further amendments to the amendment at the desk, unless somebody's handing me one. So we are on the amendment as amended. Any discussion to the amendment as amended? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There are no further amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 1 as amended.
Third reading as amended. Any discussion to the bill? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. Oh, the member from Isanti, Representative Johnson.
Madam Chair, members, we've come a long ways on this bill from what we had, what was it, a month ago. It's gotten a lot better. A lot of things are no longer in here that probably should never have been in the bill to begin with. But I do have still a couple concerns on this. One concern I have is in the police act, the Community Relations Advisory Council. I'm looking at the members on this list. It's the superintendent of BCA or his designee, executive director of the Post Board, director of the Minnesota Peace and Peace Officers Association, Sheriff's Association, the Chiefs of Police Association, 4 members from community-specific boards, 1 member from NAMI, and 1 member from the Violence-Free Minnesota, and 4 members appointed by the legislature. Now, I believe probably 1 member of this entire board will be from Greater Minnesota. There is no representation for Greater Minnesota on this board. Everybody else listed on here is generally from the metro. Now, law enforcement over the years, especially those in greater Minnesota, have fought with Post Board on the training issues because all the training was geared to Minneapolis and St. Paul. We'd go for our hours to get our credits, and all the training was absolutely worthless because it had nothing to do with greater Minnesota. I have a feeling that this board's going to be the same way. And they're going to make recommendations and things for the police department in Roseau, Minnesota, or the police department in Baudette, or that one-man department in Solway Township in St. Louis County. They're going to have to do things the metro way, which doesn't work in greater Minnesota. It doesn't work at all. I also have issues with the added members on the Post Board itself. They're adding four more members on the post, or two more members on the Post Board that are general public, but it doesn't require that half of them have to be from greater Minnesota. They could all be from the metro area. Also, I have a little bit of concern. I know with the funding, I know law enforcement wants the extension of the $6 million per year for training, and I agree, they need the funding. But I recently received some information unfortunately have not been able to verify yet, that a department received over $800,000, and they only could account for $150,000 that went for actual training. So I think we need to, we should really look at before we extend in any more of this money that is being used where it's supposed to go. I also received information this morning that in that same department, they have some officers that are not going to get their license renewed because they were not given the opportunity to get the 48 hours of credit to renew their license. So they're scrambling. So, as I say, I have concerns about this bill. I'm going to vote for it, but it's some issues that we need to look at in the future. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion to the bill? Representative Mariani or Representative Moran, did you want a closing or no?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll be very, very brief. Members, this is not the bill that I wanted for us to have today. We had a much more robust bill that we passed off here a few weeks ago. But I can say this with full confidence, that this is a good bill before you. It creates a modern accountability framework of laws that will help to end the type of police brutality that killed George Floyd in May of this year. That killing touched off a massive outrage of Minnesotans from all communities, black, white, brown, urban, suburban, rural, that quickly touched the hearts and minds of thousands of Americans across the country. And they took to the streets to exercise their First Amendment rights to also express their outrage and their desire for change. And what they're asking for is actually pretty basic, and that's what this bill asks of our policing and of our citizenry in the state of Minnesota. And that is that we should be held accountable. Everyone should be held accountable. Our police should certainly be held accountable. And the way to do that is to create processes in which Minnesotans engage with one another powerfully, honestly, and objectively, centered on the sanctity of life, centered on human rights, centered on the dignity of life. Now, those are the three things that this bill asks us to do. And so, members, I encourage you to rise up to what Minnesotans are asking us to do, and let's begin that process of healing Minnesota and observing the human rights and the human dignity that every Minnesotan possesses and should be honored by all of our public officials.
Representative Moran.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and members. Members, I know that many in law enforcement think that we can, we could, or we should improve things under our current framework, perhaps with more training, or perhaps that current accountability measures are strong enough. But I tell you that the pain, the frustration, the trauma, and the righteous anger our communities have experienced over and over again highlights that the status quo simply isn't working. So it's why we're here this evening. Our Black and brown Minnesotans deserve justice and accountability, and creating a police accountability law is just one step towards realizing the importance of life in every police encounter with a member of the community. What we have brought forward is just the beginning, and of course, some of us believe that we can always do more. But members, this is a good bill. And again, it is a beginning. It's not an end. And I want to ask for your support. Thank you.
No further discussion. The clerk will take the roll on the bill.
Acom.
Acom, aye.
Acom, aye. Albright. Albright, aye. Anderson.
Anderson, no.
Anderson, no. Backer.
Backer, no.
Backer, no. Bonner.
Bonner, aye.
Bonner, aye. Barr.
Barr, aye.
Barr, aye. Baker.
Baker, aye.
Baker, aye. Becker, Finn. Becker, Finn, aye. Bennett.
Bennett, aye.
Bennett, aye. Bernardi.
Bernardi, aye.
Bernardi, aye. Bierman.
Bierman, aye.
Bierman, aye. Bow.
Bow, aye.
Bow, aye. Brand.
Brand votes yes.
Brand, aye. Cantrell.
Cantrell, aye.
Cantrell, aye. Carlson, A.
Carlson, A, aye.
Carlson, A, aye. Carlson, L.
Carlson, L, aye.
Carlson, L, aye. Christensen.
Christensen, aye.
Christensen, aye. Claflin.
Claflin, aye.
Claflin, aye. Considine.
Considine, aye.
Considine, aye. Daniels.
Daniels, no.
Daniels, no. Doubt. Doubt, no. Davids. Davids, no. Davney.
Dabney, aye.
Davney, aye. Dean.
Dean, aye.
Dean, aye. Damath. Damath, aye. Detmer.
Detmer, no.
Detmer, no. Drazkowski.
Droskowski, no.
Drazkowski, no. Eklund.
Eklund, aye.
Eklund, aye. Edelson.
Edelson, aye.
Edelson, aye. Elkins.
Elkins, aye.
Elkins, aye. Erickson. Excused. Fabian.
Fabian, no.
Fabian, no. Fisher.
Fisher, aye.
Fisher, aye. Franzen.
Branson, no.
Franzen, no. Freiberg.
Freiberg, aye.
Freiberg, aye. Garofalo. Garofalo, aye. Gomez.
Gomez, aye.
Gomez, aye. Green.
Green, no.
Green, no. Grossel.
Grossel, no.
Grossel, no. Gruenhagen.
Gruenhagen, no.
Gruenhagen, no. Gunther.
Gunther, no.
Gunther, no. Haley.
Haley, aye.
Haley.
Haley, aye.
Haley, aye. Halverson. Halverson, aye. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hanson.
Hanson, aye.
Hanson, aye. Hassan.
Hassan, yes.
Hassan, aye. Hausman.
Hausman, aye.
Hausman, aye. Heinrich.
Heinrich, no.
Heinrich, no. Heinzman.
Heinzman, no.
Heinzman, no. Her.
Her, aye.
Her, aye. Hertas. Hertas. Hornstein.
Hornstein, aye.
Hornstein, aye. Howard.
Howard, aye.
Howard, aye. Hewitt.
Hewitt, aye.
Hewitt, aye. Johnson. Johnson, aye. Jordan.
Jordan, aye.
Jordan, aye. Jurgens. Jurgens, aye. Keel.
Keel, aye.
Keel, aye. Cleavorn.
Cleaborn, aye.
Cleavorn, aye. Cagle.
Cagle, aye.
Cagle, aye. Katiza Watun.
Katiza Watun, aye.
Katiza Watun, aye. Kosnick.
Cosmic, aye.
Kosnick, aye. Krisha.
Krisha, aye.
Krisha, aye. Kunish Podine.
Heller?
Kunesh Podine, aye.
Kunish Podine, aye. Lehman.
Lehman, no.
Lehman, no. Lee. Lee, aye. Lesh.
Lesh, aye.
Lesh, aye. Liebling.
Liebling, aye.
Liebling, aye. Lean.
Lane, aye.
Lean, aye. Lilly.
Lily, aye.
Lilly, aye. Lippert.
Lippert, aye.
Lippert, aye. Listlegard.
Listlegard, aye.
Listlegard, aye. Long. Long, aye. Lucero.
Lucero, no.
Lucero, no. Lewick.
Fluick, no.
Lewick, no. Mahoney.
Mahoney, aye.
Mahoney, aye. Mann.
Man, aye.
Mann, aye. Mariani.
Mariotti, aye.
Mariani, aye. Marquardt.
Marquardt, aye.
Marquardt, aye. Mason.
Mason, aye.
Mason, aye. McDonald.
McDonald, no.
McDonald, no. Mecklin. Mecklin. Miller.
Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Moeller.
Mueller, aye.
Moeller, aye. Moran.
Moran, aye.
Moran, aye. Morrison.
Morrison, aye.
Morrison, aye. Munson. Munson, no. Murphy.
Murphy, aye.
Murphy, aye. Nash.
Nash, no.
Nash, no. Nelson, M.
Nelson M, aye.
Nelson, M, aye. Nelson, N.
Nelson N, no.
Nelson, N, no. New. New, no. Noor. Noor, aye. Nornis.
Nornis, no.
Nornis, no. Novotny. Novotny.
Novotny, aye.
Novotny, aye. O'Driscoll.
O'Driscoll, aye.
O'Driscoll, aye. Olson. Olson, aye. O'Neill.
O'Neill, aye.
O'Neill, aye. Pulowski.
Pulowski, aye.
Pulowski, aye. Purcell.
Purcell, aye.
Purcell, aye. Petersburg.
Petersburg, aye.
Petersburg, aye. Pearson.
Pearson, aye.
Pearson, aye. Pinto.
Pinto, aye.
Pinto, aye. Poppy.
Poppy, aye.
Poppy, aye. Poston.
Poston, aye.
Poston, aye. Pryor.
Pryor, aye.
Pryor, aye. Quam.
Quam, aye.
Quam, aye. Richardson.
Richardson, aye.
Richardson, aye. Robbins. Robbins, aye. Runbeck.
Runback, no.
Runbeck, no. Sandell.
Sandell, aye.
Sandell, aye. Sandsted.
Sandsted, aye.
Sandsted, aye. Sauk.
Sauk, aye.
Sauk, aye. Schumacher.
Schumacher, aye.
Schumacher, aye. Schultz.
Schultz, aye.
Schultz, aye. Scott.
Scott, aye.
Scott, aye. Stevenson.
Stevenson, aye.
Stevenson, aye. Sundin.
Sundin, no.
Sundin, no. Swazinski.
Swazinski, aye.
Swazinski, aye. Tabke.
Tabke, aye.
Tabke, aye. Tice.
Tice, aye.
Tice, aye. Torkelson.
Torkelson, no.
Torkelson, no. Erdahl. Erdahl, aye. Vang.
Vang, aye.
Vang, aye. Vogel.
Vogel, no.
Vogel, no. Wagenius.
Wagenius, aye.
Wagenius, aye. Wozlowick.
Wozlowick, aye.
Wozlowick, aye. West.
West, aye.
West, aye. Winkler. Winkler, aye. Wolgamott.
Wolgamott, aye.
Wolgamott, aye. Zhang Jie.
Jones, aye.
Zhang Jie, aye. Zhang Ti.
Zhang Ti, aye.
Zhang Ti, aye. Joachim.
Joachim, aye.
Joachim, aye. Speaker Hartman. Speaker Hartman, aye. Hertas. Hertas. Mecklin. Mecklin.
Clerk will close the roll. Representative Barr would like to be recalled to change his vote.
Barr.
Barr changes from aye to nay.
Barr changes from aye to nay.
There being 102 ayes and 29 nays, the bill is passed as amended and its title agreed to.